Look at a map of modern North Texas, and Argyle appears as a comfortable, manicured suburb. But for the better part of a century, this patch of land was under constant threat of being wiped completely off the map. In the 1850s, the extreme isolation of the frontier was the first major threat. Before it even had a formal name, the scattered settlement was known as Pilot Knob or Waintown. It was populated by prairie farmers who claimed land grants through the Peters Colony, attempting to carve out a life in the dense scrub of the cross timbers. Survival here required sticking together. These early families ran open-range cattle across the untamed landscape, building their cabins in tight clusters for mutual protection against both the harsh environment and the deep seclusion of the frontier. The outside world was a long way off. In 1878, a pioneer named Emily Wilson made an early attempt to tether the community to the rest of the country by securing an appointment as the area's first postmistress. It was a fragile link. Wilson operated the post office directly out of her own log cabin, relying entirely on stagecoaches that rattled through the prairie to deliver the mail. Pioneer grit could only sustain a settlement for so long. Without a reliable, high-speed connection to the national economy, the few scattered cabins at Pilot Knob were ultimately destined to rot and fade back into the brush. That lifeline arrived in 1881. The Texas and Pacific Railway laid its tracks straight through the region, bringing an iron horse that permanently anchored the isolated community to a sprawling national trade network. To capitalize on this new rail line, developer James Morrill officially founded the town. He took the wild, scattered plots of the frontier and stamped a precise geometric grid right over them, creating a formal blueprint designed specifically to attract commercial growth. Morrill organized his grid with a strict naming convention. Streets running east to west on the east side of the tracks were named for established Texas counties: Dallas, Denton, and Rusk. The remaining streets were named for the native timber surrounding them: pecan, oak, and elm. With the streets laid out, the town needed a proper name. Local legend holds that an anonymous railway surveyor christened it Argyle after a peaceful garden in France. Other historians point to the ruggedly beautiful Argyle region in Scotland, a common inspiration for 19th century land developers. Regardless of the name's origin, the new tracks and Morrill's grid gave those scattered cabins a permanent structure, creating a commercial center capable of sustaining the growth that followed. The payoff was immediate. The ability to quickly export goods shifted the local economy from open-range cattle to lucrative cash crops like wheat, oats, and cotton. Steam grist mills fired up, and a massive cotton gin was built to process the harvest. But rapid development brought new vulnerabilities. In 1895, a fire broke out inside a local dry goods store. The flames spread rapidly through the timber-framed buildings. In a matter of hours, the blaze reduced the entire business section of the town to ash, taking all the early municipal records with it. The residents rebuilt, this time using more brick and mortar. They constructed a new 2-story schoolhouse and, in 1906, established the Argyle State Bank. But securing their wealth soon attracted a different kind of threat. In 1912, outlaws slipped into the town under the cover of darkness. They packed the bank's vault with dynamite, blew the heavy doors wide open, and vanished into the night with $1,700. The thieves were never identified. Argyle proved it could absorb the shock of physical disasters and frontier crime. The town simply swept up the glass and kept working, unaware that the real threat to its future was the chemical makeup of the very dirt they farmed. For decades, local farmers had aggressively planted king cotton. It was highly profitable, but the intensive farming practices slowly drained the earth of its nutrients, leaving the soil completely exhausted. When the Great Depression hit, the weakened agricultural economy finally snapped. The fields could no longer produce the yields required to sustain the town's families. At the same time, the defense industry in nearby Dallas and Fort Worth was exploding. The prospect of stable, lucrative factory jobs during World War II created an irresistible pull, draining the younger generation away from the failing farms and into the cities. This chart tracks the resulting exodus. By 1950, Argyle's population had collapsed. The bustling railway stop was reduced to just 90 residents. Argyle faced a slow, quiet demographic erasure. The same metroplex that provided new factory jobs was simultaneously draining the town of its lifeblood. Those 90 remaining residents saw the writing on the wall. The Dallas-Fort Worth urban sprawl was creeping steadily northward. Without official, legal boundaries, their rural community would be quietly annexed and paved over by neighboring cities. They decided to draw a hard line in the dirt. On September 19, 1960, the locals held a vote and officially incorporated Argyle as an independent city, electing M.H. Wilson to serve as its first mayor. That legal shield allowed them to control their own development. The near-abandoned ghost town of 1950 stabilized and eventually evolved into the vibrant, master-planned agricultural neighborhoods you see today. Argyle survived because it adapted. When pioneer isolation threatened it, the community embraced the railroad. When fires and bank robbers struck, they rebuilt with brick. And when modern progress threatened to swallow it whole, the town weaponized its own borders to ensure its history remained securely on the map.